Hello, everyone. What a happiness. Welcome to session 2 of our Mindfulness Sangha Facilitator training. There are still people streaming in. How fun. How fun. I hope you're all arriving in a peaceful state. That whatever your day has taken you, that you're ready to land in it right now. Remembering that everything we do together with this intention is the opposite of a distraction. It's a leaning in. It's a leaning in. For myself, I've had a wonderful day. Just kind of set aside the entire day to think about what we would share with one another today and prepare myself in body and mind and spirit to be here as fully as I possibly can be. In the end, it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. I guess it still is. I'm so happy right now to be here with all of you. So here we are, right? The 3 parts of our program. Self, which we covered last month. Now, Sangha, which we're going to work on today, meaning we're going to really heavily focus on some things I like to bear in mind when I'm leading meditation of any kind. That's this month's focus. And then the 3rd part is society, right? And so next month on March 30th, same day, same time, we're going to talk about how this practice touches society and can positively affect and even heal our society. And we'll be focusing specifically on how to facilitate the practice of Dharma sharing, which is a practice that's unique to the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition. So that's next month. We have that to look forward to. Hi, everybody that's still arriving. Welcome. So, as I said, today we're going to focus on what it's like and things to bear in mind when leading meditation for people. And it really doesn't matter if you're leading a body scan, or if you're leading a walking meditation, if you're leading a guided meditation when people are seated. Certain universal things just apply. I've been leading meditations for 20 years. And let me tell you, I've led some awful meditations. And when I say that, I mean that I judge them that way, right? And this is what's so important. And this is why I want to start there, right? We are going to be 100 times out of 100, we are going to be our own worst critics in these moments, right? Especially if you're newer to leading guided meditations for people, particularly. It's nerve-wracking, right? Let's just call it out right now. Public speaking can be very triggering and can make us feel very self-conscious and nervous and tense. And right out of the gate, right here at the very beginning of our time together, I want to normalize that. That's totally okay. That's totally okay. That's going to happen. And it might happen for a really long time. That happened for me in a very strong way. I was like really tense and nervous at the bell, like facilitating my root Sangha, Rock Blossom Sangha in Park Slope, Brooklyn, when I began. I would say for the first couple or few years. That's just how it was. No matter how well I prepared, no matter how safe I felt surrounded by a Sangha of friends, I experienced a lot of nervous tension. And so the first thing I want to say today is I want to invite you to expect and even welcome some version for yourself of that experience. And to normalize it, because if when it happens we're thinking, oh my God, my palms are sweaty, this is terrible, everyone can tell, and all of this, right? Spotlight effect thinking, it'll just make it so much harder. And so what I did in the very beginning was every time it would happen, right, I would sit the bell and I would have my checklist, which I always recommend, right? Make it as easy for yourself as possible. I had a laminated checklist, with the times and a clock and a little notepad. But when that nervous energy would arise, I would call it beneficial tension. And I would be grateful for it. I would say, oh, okay, here it is, right? My adrenaline is pumping through my body. My mind is focusing on the task at hand. All distractions are going away. This is helping me. This is helping me. As opposed to making an enemy of it. Our teacher, the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, likes to say that our actions are their most powerful when they are connected to our deepest intentions. Our actions are their most powerful when they are connected to our deepest intentions. And so as we talked about last month, when we talked about our own practice, right, and how all of our facilitation, all of our Dharma generosity, right, comes out of our own practice. This becomes particularly important in these moments when we're going to be leading a dedicated practice of meditation. If I have the intention to get it right or to look cool, or even, right, because this one is insidious, or even to achieve excellence, right? Can you hear the sneaky judgment and duality hiding in the desire for excellence, right, in your execution? So if I'm holding any of those things, then my actions are not going to be maximally powerful, because my deepest intention is not to garner praise. Right? My deepest intention is to be wholly present with whatever happens, with whoever shows up, including the whoever that I am that day. Because some days I'm really calm and feeling really grounded and really happy about life. And some days I'm not. And that's okay. That's okay. That is at the baseline of what we're all doing together, what this all is. One of the ways that I stay focused on my intention when I'm leading or about to lead guided meditation in particular, because it's, there's a lot of moving parts, right? There's a lot of steps. We're going to do one here in a minute or two. Is I like to think about the snow globe. I talk about this so much that friends actually gave me a snow globe, beautiful snow globe of a New York City scene. Human beings are just like snow globes. Okay? A snow globe, it's designed to be shaken up. Right? The chaos is built in. The chaos is built in. It's beautiful, right? And fun to observe. There's nothing wrong with the snow globe when it's shaken up. It hasn't done anything wrong. It doesn't have a problem. Right? The snow globe has no complaints. Right? And so when you hear these very erroneous, even impossible instructions from meditation teachers or yoga teachers, like, okay, now we're going to take a few deep breaths and clear our mind, right? Or now I'm going to focus on my breathing and stop thinking, right? And you hear this kind of stuff. It's a violence, right? It's a violence against what we are, against the snow globe that we are as a human being. I'm shaken up most of the time, in a wild kind of chaos of thoughts and feelings and confusion. And that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. And my practice is to observe that, is to bring a very loving, very accepting, very non-judgmental, as best I can, attitude to my chaos, to my shaken up snow globe. And if I do that long enough, diligently enough, there will be times when the snow globe settles. And that's really beautiful too. Right? There's a quality of perception, of understanding, a clarity, literally and figuratively, that's only available to me in those settled moments. And so when we're facilitating meditation for other people, this is what we're doing, in my humble opinion. The intention I set is to help people to learn how to and to train how to settle their own snow globes. Settle their own snow globes. But that doesn't make anything wrong or bad or enemy out of when the snow globe is all shaken up. Because let me tell you, mine is shaken up most of the time. That's why I take such pleasure, right? And try with such diligence to let it settle, to be very deliberate and let it settle every once in a while. There's nothing wrong, right, with one state or the other. I just don't want to be in the shaken up state all the time, because there's a lack of clarity there. It's a lot harder to love and understand myself, right, when I'm in that state too much. So that said, let's have a sit now ourselves. So find your comfortable seat. For me, that means if I'm in a chair, that I want to have a soft front supported by a strong back. The soft front means that the muscles in my face are relaxed, that my trousers are loose and comfortable, my belly can really breathe, that my shoulders are down, that my hands are in a place of comfort and rest, wherever that lands, in my sweatshirt pocket, on the table in front of me. Soft front is a physical way to remind me that everything, right, from this moment on, I'm going to meet with openness, whatever it is. But in order not to be bowled over by this, I like to practice with a strong back. Right? And that doesn't mean statue back. Right? I'm not rigid. I'm just upright in a dignified way. Right? In a way that is lifting rather than collapsing or sinking. These two together, right? This inclusivity of a soft front and the equanimity, right, of a strong back, or where I set my body. You can even smile to remind yourself to enjoy and to flow with the experience of the next 5 or 10 minutes instead of to try to wrestle it down. And then I set intention. Why am I here? As we've been talking about, I'm not here to affect some immediate change. I have taken my seat to observe. And I trust that this observation will produce some of the transformation, the calm, the insight that I do desire. This period of meditation will begin with 1 sound of the bell and will end with 2 sounds. Be gentle with yourself. Feel free even to physically adjust if something starts to hurt or fall asleep. Breathing in, I am aware that I have a body. Breathing out, I smile in gratitude for my body and everything it makes possible for me. In, aware of body. Out, smiling. Breathing in, I'm aware that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am breathing out. In, out. Noticing the wandering mind. Noticing how my attention may have drifted to some thoughts of the past or the future. And gently bringing my focus back to my chosen object of attention. Again and again, countless thousands of times. Breathing in, I'm aware that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware that I am breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, I am aware of my feelings. Breathing out, I accept anything that I am feeling right now. In, aware of feelings. Out, accepting feelings. Breathing in, I have arrived. Breathing out, I am home. In, arrived. Out, home. Thank you, friends. Feel free to stretch out and unwind and massage yourselves. So let's unpack that meditation a little bit. And let me explain why I make those kinds of choices. Because you can say almost anything. There are tons of amazing meditations on the Plum Village app, for example, some even from Thich Nhat Hanh himself. I also really resonate with the work of Jon Kabat-Zinn, a molecular biologist who did a lot of work to bring mindfulness into the Western medical sphere. If you check out his book, Full Catastrophe Living, breaks down his 8-week course called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And it gives some really easy, totally secular ways to introduce sitting meditation, even a little bit of movement meditation. Highly recommend. I'll probably add that to the resources page on the website. Jon Kabat-Zinn is the man. So first thing I want to point out is like repetition is your friend. A version of that meditation is what I lead almost every week at Sangha Ocean Beach. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, and none of us are, right? There's a reason why this stuff has been around for 2,600 years, you know? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you have that temptation, you know, because many of us are very creative, to kind of like really want to come up with your own thing and make it different and change things a lot, tap the brakes on that. Tap the brakes on that. I like to lead a meditation about 100 times before I feel really comfortable with it. You know, and then when I've led it 100 times and I can do it backwards and forwards like the one I just led, then it's really easy to change one thing, right? Because the other 90% of it I feel so comfortable inside of, and I can experiment then without, you know, elevating my anxiety levels. So perhaps counterintuitively, especially for the more enthusiastic and creative of us, do the same thing over and over again. And if you're concerned about how that will land with your audience or your Sangha, I can tell you from decades of mindfulness teaching and of yoga teaching, people love repetition. Oh my God, it makes them feel so good. It makes them feel so good. You know, there's a reason why every religious or spiritual community or practice has a ritual built into it, or has some kind of ceremony that is done the same or close to the same way again and again. Human beings like that. Think about how good it feels to hear one of your favorite songs. This is the feeling you want to produce when people are hearing you guide them into meditation. Anything unfamiliar, change, can be jarring and can be difficult and can put people into a thinking, processing mind like, oh, am I doing this right? But if you lead them in the same, you know, or close to the same practice 100 times, by time 100, they're not thinking about that anymore. Right? They're just, here we go. You know, they remember the feelings that they had, and that well-worn path, right, in our neurobiology, takes them back to some of that same place of feeling. So don't feel like you're doing them a disservice by being repetitive. The opposite is the case. So we talked so much about this last month, but I have to talk about it again. You know, the idea is, when leading a meditation, is to be sitting yourself. Right? To be sitting yourself. If you are imagining that everybody's in meditation but you, because you have all this work to do, right? Oh man, it's really hard to keep the meditation on the rails. You know, because you've created this veil, you've created this barrier between you and what everybody else is experiencing. Right? If you're guiding everybody to settle their snow globe, you have to be settling your snow globe too. So I don't know, there's lots of different technology in front of me right now, like 2 different microphones, 2 different cameras, you know how it goes, or maybe you don't. But if you've done this online, it gets really techy really quick. And while that was happening, while I was leading the sit just now, my neighbors have 2 young girls, and you might have been able to hear them. Were you able to hear them, Rachel? Yeah, you could hear them, right? So I had this experience, of course, right? This very natural and very human experience, like, oh man, really? Like, it's been so quiet all day. Like, why do they have to, they're like 6 and 4, I call them the butterflies because I'm always happy when they're around, and they're never here for long. They're little butterflies. And so when the sound came up, of course, right, I experienced all the natural things like frustration, disappointment, guilt, like, oh, I should have texted my neighbors and asked them for an hour of quiet. Shame, like, oh, here I am, trying to be Mr. Professional and teach people how to do this, and I'm not doing it so well, right? As natural as the rain, all of those stories go through my mind. But I know, right, we know, that the most important thing is just how I feel in that moment. I can't control everything. And so instead, as I saw that arise right in my mind, which I was able to think about because I'm so familiar with leading that meditation and didn't have to think that much in order to go through those couplets, giving myself a gift, I just made the decision. I was just like, you know what? Because I was like, oh, should I text them now? Should I text them right after the sit? Problem-solving monkey, the problem-solving monkey mind. So instead, I just said, no, I kind of like that sound. They're 2 adorable little butterflies, If everybody's going to hear that now, good for them. I consider myself lucky that I get to hear that sound every day. And then I felt better, right? And then I could relax into what was. There's this great story, because it's really easy to think of ourselves once we start facilitating meditation, to put all this pressure on ourselves, right? It's a heavy hat to put on, to say okay, this thing that I care about so much, this thing that is technical and slightly performative and so public and deeply spiritual, right? This thing that has all these layers to it. Once you put on that facilitator's hat, it can feel very heavy. You can start to just put a lot of pressure on yourself. And so I hold a couple of stories to remind me not to do that. Let me take a sip of this. Black coffee. Whew, it's decaf because of the hour, but oof, what a pleasure. Simple pleasure, just some water, bean water. So first story I like to think of is Jack Kornfield. If you haven't heard of him, he's one of the most famous and respected mindfulness teachers in the United States. He's been traveling to Burma and India and all over the world and bringing the teachings of mindfulness back to the United States since the late 60s and early 70s. He's a master. Jack Kornfield tells this great story about a time that he was guiding loving kindness meditation, metta meditation. And right before it happened, he's kind of in an ante room just off the Dharma hall. He's about to go out. He was on a phone call with his girlfriend, and things went awry, right? They ended up in argument. And so there he is, a moment later on the stage leading the meditation. And in between the couplets, so he's saying things like, breathing in, I'm aware of kindness. Breathing out, I'm radiating kindness to the world. He's saying things like this, and then inviting the bell. Well, while everybody in the room is breathing, right? He's thinking to himself, oh man, how could she say that? Oh, she's so mean. Ooh, I'm going to tell her what for. After this, I'm going to put her back in her place, and then he had to say, oh, breathing in, I'm aware of love in my heart. He did this up on stage for 20 minutes. And what I love about this story from this master is that it reminds us that even once we put on this hat of facilitator, even once we start sharing this thing that we care about so much, we don't get to stop being human beings. It just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. And so when whatever comes up, as we're having these moments, we have to meet it with as much kindness towards ourselves as we possibly can. We're 99.6% chimpanzee. No, don't forget. We have to hold ourselves like that. I was invited last year to lead a guided meditation for an online baby shower. And this was for another meditation teacher who teaches meditation teachers. And so I knew there was going to be all these meditators on the call, from all over the world, supporting this beautiful couple about to have a baby. And so, I prepared, I thought through what I was going to say. I got my space set, all very well in advance. And then just as I was about to join the call, because of course I was going to join the call like 5 minutes early, to make sure my tech was all set up and maybe to say hi to the organizers in case they wanted to ask me anything. Just as that was happening, I made a last minute decision to adjust the light. And that light, back in those days, it had an umbrella over it and it sort of obscured a lot of my vision from the other side. And I knocked a coffee cup this size, like a 16-ounce mug full of piping hot coffee over onto the desk that I was about to lead the meditation from, right? This desk. I literally screamed, "Disaster!" I'm not kidding. That was my reaction, But because I had built in, right, these buffers, because I knew exactly what I was going to do and had it in front of me, because I was getting ready early, because I was already in my practice, because I was already starting the work of accepting, and being lovingly present, right? I define mindfulness as paying attention with love. I just looked at the clock after my exclamation, I looked at the clock and I was like, I have time. And I ran to the kitchen and grabbed the towels and cleaned the desk and, moved the things and, changed my socks because I, coffee all over my feet, And then I sat down, and when I clicked in, the organizers were there, and they said, "Dave, would you be okay if your meditation was the very first thing? We've changed our minds, and we want you," because I was supposed to go 10 minutes in, to some introductions and stuff. And of course, I said, "No problem." I was so activated, my nervous system was so up in those moments that when I lifted the bell, it was shaking. My hand was shaking. But I never, while any of that was happening, beat myself up. Right? I didn't tell myself the unbeneficial story that there was something wrong, because there really wasn't, right? Everything was fine, And afterwards, we were broken up into breakout groups that day. It was kind of like an online party. And a couple of the people in my group were like, "Wow, you really brought the calm, dude. Thanks so much." Because I gave a very calming, very grounding meditation. That's what I had planned, And I was like, "Oh my God." And I told them the story, So that's what we're working towards, right? That's what we're working towards. And I can't always pull that off, And I've been doing this for a long time, but that's the North Star, right? That's the North Star. We want to just be there for whatever happens and enjoy it and have a laugh about it. This comes back to the snow globe idea, right? Another fundamental intention is that when I'm leading a meditation with a group of people, I'm not trying to impart something to them. I'm trying to empower them in some way. Right? A good teacher imparts. A great teacher empowers. And Thai didn't just give us a whole bunch of knowledge, right? Although he did. Thich Nhat Hanh also helped us step by step to understand how we can achieve some of those same insights, how we can achieve some of those same capacities. So that's what we're trying to do. If I was concerned about imparting, then mistakes are a real big deal, right? But if I'm concerned about empowerment, then when things go a little off the rails and I just keep going, I'm empowering everybody to do the same at home the next day when they can't stop thinking about the argument they had with their partner, when they can't stop shopping at Costco, when they can't stop thinking about the pain in their knee. Right? A good meditation does not have to be a long meditation. I'm a real huge fan of a practice called a minute to arrive. If any of you have ever had a meeting with me in person or online, very likely I've asked us to have a short sit at the beginning of it, usually just a minute or two. And typically I don't even say anything. I just invite the person to enjoy feeling what it feels like to be a human being for a minute. And then I invite Bell and we start talking. When I was going through my training to become a massage therapist, I wanted a part-time job because that school was a couple of years long. And so I got a part-time job at Trader Joe's. This was in Los Angeles many, many years ago. And in order to be free during the day for my schooling, I was working a shift that started at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like the crew that received the truck deliveries early in the morning and stocked everything. So when the store was opening, like we were almost done with our workday. And just a couple of weeks into working with this group of humans, I saw how bad that job was for their bodies, right? It was cold. It was too early. It pretty much immediately, we were all like lifting and moving heavy things for hours, sometimes in cold environments, right? In refrigerators and freezers. It was just a beat up your body type of a gig. And the people, my fellow workers, my workmates, it showed. Oh my God, they were all covered in wrist braces and knee braces, and they were all popping painkillers at the beginning of their shift with their morning coffee. It was brutal. It was brutal. And so I went to the kind of main boss, and I just took a chance. And I just said, hey, I'm a yoga instructor. Like, is there any way that I could just for free, just as a gift, like every day that I'm here on shift, like lead, just like maybe 10 minutes of yoga for everybody who's interested? Turned out the guy's wife was a yoga instructor. He was all about it. He was like, absolutely, that'd be fantastic. So I, gathered everybody up at the end of the shift and I said, okay, from here on out, when we start this shift, there was one particularly wide aisle. And I said, we're going to meet in this aisle and it's totally voluntary and you can come hang out with me for 10 minutes. And I would say within 6 months, 80-90% of the people who work there were joining me. And for 10 minutes, I was essentially leading them through a very gentle, moving meditation. What was I trying to do, right? I was trying to empower them to let their snow globes settle a little bit throughout the day. Just to be more aware. I couldn't make the frozen foods they were hauling, any less heavy. I couldn't make the urgencies of time any less real. But what I could do was invite them to be a full step more aware all day long. And that person who's more aware lifts with their legs and not with their back. That person who's more aware takes their break instead of working through it. So yeah, don't put yourself in a box in terms of how and when you lead these meditations. Anytime is good, even if you have 1 minute, with people. Just want to talk about one more thing maybe before I open it up, because of course I want to hear from all of you. I'm going to do a whole separate course in the spring, probably in April, about all this technical aspect of things. For people that are interested in facilitating via Zoom or doing hybrid sanghas where they're live with some people but also streaming, there's so much involved in the tech that I don't want to muddy what we're doing right now, by talking about it. I'm just going to do an entirely separate course on that. But one thing I will say is that because it's so important, if you're unfamiliar, if you haven't done a lot of teaching, and especially if you haven't done a lot of teaching the way I'm doing it right now, like looking at a camera, man, it's hard. You're getting so much feedback from people in the room, so much shared energy. It's so supportive that it's a full step harder to be looking at a camera. When I began it, I hired a YouTube coach to teach me, how to do this and to give me advice about what to buy and things like that, because I knew nothing. And one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me, and I took it, was he said, Dave, the more you do this, like everything, the easier it will become. You have to train. And so I filmed myself talking to the camera for like at least 5 minutes every single day for a year and watched it. And let me tell you, go back and go to my YouTube channel and go look at my first videos. They're like 3 or 4 years old now. You can tell how nervous I am. You feel so alone in this room, like listening to the echo of your voice off the walls. And it took me about a year to start to settle in and just be able to be myself and feel that all of you are here with me. Particularly if you want to, as I do, maintain eye contact with the camera as I'm doing right now. If you don't want to look down at everybody, right, and get those reactions, because especially in recording later, this doesn't look as nice, and isn't as connecting and as personal feeling for people. You're literally, just staring at nothing. And that's not easy to do. It's very counterintuitive for our brains. I'm so used to it now. I'm doing it so much for the last several years, but it takes training. A year, 5 minutes every day, you'll thank me. Well, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to stop right there because I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear any questions that you might have about any aspect of how you've been or plan to be introducing mindfulness in whatever setting. And just a reminder that we are recording. We're doing an act of generosity right now so that other people can benefit from this course via YouTube who couldn't afford the donation or couldn't be here for time constraints, who are going to watch this later. So be aware that if you do bow in and ask a question, you will be recorded, and that recording is going to be put up publicly on YouTube. That said, if we end up having an exchange that gets kind of personal and after you ask your question and I answer it, you would rather that not be public, just email me and let me know, and I'll redact it. I'll edit it out. No problem. So with that, please use the Zoom interface to raise your hands, and the floor is open. You have a hand. I'm inviting you to unmute. It's nice to start your share with your first name and where you're joining us from.
My name is Mark. I'm in New York. I'm a member of the Green Island Sangha. We practice in the Plum Village tradition of our teacher Thai. I'm often asked to facilitate, and I get very triggered. I lose sleep a few days before I facilitate. I over-prepare. I make notes. I rarely follow those notes, but I usually have a checklist of, what I want to do during the practice, often to the point of not feeling very relaxed myself. That started to change a bit after reading an article, either in Tricycle or Lion's Roar, where the Buddha talked, it's said that the Buddha talked about 5 fears: fear of death, illness, dementia, loss of public standing, and public speaking. And I never, Buddha didn't want to speak in public? How is this possible? So I said, oh, okay. If it's okay with Siddhartha, I can deal with this. So that kind of took a bit of an edge off for me personally, that it was recognized, recorded, and it's been an issue for thousands of years. So I'm just part of that lineage, I guess. Mark, bowing out.
Thank you, Mark. One of the ways I hold it is, that they think that 60, 70,000 years ago, we were roaming around nomadically in tribes of maximum 150. And our acceptance inside of that tribe was a matter of life and death. If everybody suddenly thought that it was really bad to be around you, then you would probably die. And so I think it's coming from this really very deep combination of, evolutionary psychology and biology. No, I don't think we have a lot of choice in the matter. As I said today, right, I spent the entire day preparing myself to be sitting here at the beginning of this workshop. And still, my palms were kind of sweaty, and I was a little nervous and a little physically tense when it began. A little worried. I think it's as normal as the rain. And now I try to connect it back, as we were saying, to positivity. I'm happy about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I got my game face on. All right, I can feel my feet on the ground. I am present. It's a gift. It's a gift. Easier said than done, and not always going to be the case, but it's a direction to lean in. Thanks, Mark. We have a hand. I'm inviting you to unmute.
Hi, Dave. This is Peter Whitcomb, bowing in from the Boston area. Thank you for your encouragement, and it rings a bell in me when I had to prepare for public speaking. I had a similar experience, that recording myself basically over and over and over and over again was very comforting and helped me get that game face I totally didn't have at the beginning. I was really shocked at how uncomfortable I was speaking to a camera or speaking, a script, and grateful for the encouragement, because I felt much more natural as things went on, and I'm much more capable of just doing it and enjoying it. And I guess the thing why I haven't wanted to lead meditations is I've been really just trying to meditate, in peace myself, and speaking about it really triggers me in a different direction. And I want to practice that, because I really enjoyed your meditation. It really did help me relax. Peter, bowing out.
Thank you, Peter. We talked about the benefits of co-facilitation last month and how much easier it is to do it, especially when you're beginning, if you do it with another person. There's always the option, too, of starting out by leading meditations that are almost entirely silent. Because it is a whole extra thing, right? To have to deliver a line and think about timing, right? When we're doing these couplets, like breathing in, I'm aware, I'm breathing in, breathing out, I'm aware, I'm breathing out, right? That's a meditative couplet. That adds a whole nother job for us, right? Until you get a little more practice. Like, I know about how long 3 breaths takes, and I know about how long 5 of my breaths take. And so I can just make a decision given how many couplets I want to use and how long I want the meditation to be, how many breaths I'll take in between each. But that's 20 years of experience, right? When I started, I would record the meditation first and then play it back and time the breaks and be like, no, I got to make it more like 45 seconds there, or I got to make it more like a minute. And so I was kind of giving the couple and then looking at a clock, you know? And so I wish somebody had pulled me aside back in those days and been like, what are you doing? Like, you look so furtive and nervous. Like, why don't you just lead a silent sit? Like, nobody needs you to say anything. Or maybe say a few words at the beginning, like I spoke about the snow globe, right, before I led our sit today. You can condense something like that down to 5 sentences and then introduce a silent seated meditation. Just invite the bell 10 minutes later, right? It's a way to ease ourselves into the feeling of responsibility and the spotlight effect and all of the nerves and everything, but to diminish the responsibilities that we have in that heightened state. Thanks so much, Peter. I can't wait to hear a meditation from you. All right, we have another hand. I'm inviting you to unmute.
Hi, this is Will from Long Island, New York, Green Island Sangha. Hi, Mark, as well, and everyone, and Ty. You mentioned, Dave, meditating or facilitating with another co-facilitator, and that is our process and our practice at Green Island. So no one has to lead it alone, and something wonderful happens. It's pretty much almost like a fine-tuned machine, but maybe not fine-tuned. We have a sign up where you could sign up online for the time you want, and we always have someone who does tech. So if you are co-facilitating, you don't also have to do the tech unless you're one of our super people like Anna or Mark, who can do the tech and then add something. That's not me, but others can do it. But what happens during that week before is you meet with your co-facilitator and you just sort of plug in the pieces. Who's doing the welcome intro? Who's doing the introduce the names around the room? What video do we want to show of Ty? So we watch the video and then we talk about the video. So the week before, it's like we're having a sit. Me and the other facilitator are having our sit together. And then we talk about our lives. So it's a way of not only co-facilitating, but building Sangha and enjoying each other. So it's fun. It really, you bring the fun. I can imagine the Buddha brought the fun. You have to bring the fun. But so that's what we do. And for example, I think I co-facilitated, I didn't lead, but co-facilitated for Valentine's Day weekend around that time. So we did a loving kindness meditation. And we had Ty, I think, talking about how do you love difficult people? And that was the video. I mean, it just sort of, you get creative. And what you said about, it's not a teaching, it's a sharing. Because everyone who's sitting in the room, they want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. They want you to succeed because they themselves want to deepen the practice. So it's a different headspace. You don't have to be the leader, and you don't have to do it alone. At least that's what we do in Green Island. But so come and visit us. I'd love to see you. Going out.
Thank you so much, Will. I've benefited from your practice so much over the years, and I'm excited that soon you'll be giving a talk and leading some stuff for Sangha Ocean Beach. Appreciate you. Well, thank you, friends. That's all the time we have for questions. Now I'm just going to close with a few announcements. First and foremost, let me start with gratitude. Thank you all so much. I know, you could be, in this modern world, you could be anywhere you want to be in the world right now on a Saturday night, most of you. I understand. I receive your presence here, whether you're here on the call or whether you're watching this and recording 6 months from now. I receive your presence and your practice as a gift. Thank you so much. We do it together. Our next session is same day, same time on March 30th, Saturday, March 30th from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the recording for this session will be up on Friday on the resource page. So if you are, as I hope you are, sharing this with your friends and your coworkers and your Sanghas and other facilitators or aspiring facilitators who maybe aren't able to be here right now, that video will be available on Friday. I already said that in April, we're going to do a whole separate course just talking about the tech of running a Zoom/hybrid Sangha. So I'll be announcing that more and talking about that more and what that's going to look like. Make sure that you're doing your homework, go look at this stuff on the resource page, watch the videos, do some of the reading, download the Plum Village app. All of these things are there free, for you, just to support you. Go check them out. I already talked about Jon Kabat-Zinn's book, The Full Catastrophe, Full Catastrophe Living, it's called. And I'll add that and a link to it on the resource page. If you're looking, maybe you're sharing your mindfulness in a work setting and you're wary of using any Buddhist terminology at all, which is totally okay, and I do that very often. Jon Kabat-Zinn has a real nice collection of secular framings and scientific framings for exactly what we're doing here. I've leaned into his work a lot over the years. I've read everything he's written. And the last thing is I have a question for you. And this is for the people that are here live tonight and also anybody that's watching this via video, in the upcoming weeks. I have the idea, because almost 100 people signed up for this course. And it made me think, wow, okay, this is a real need. I don't know how easy it is to get to hang out like this and not be practicing or facilitating, but be talking about facilitating. And so my thought is that we could start a facilitator Sangha and maybe meet, something manageable like quarterly. And I know enough long-time facilitators and meditation teachers that I could bring in a different teacher every quarter to talk a little bit and share a little bit of their experience and take some questions. And it would also be an opportunity for us in that environment to be connected and connecting with other facilitators, because that's so important too. You might be out there on your own. I don't know. You might be teaching meditation to your neighbor in the middle of nowhere, on an off-grid homestead. So if that sounds like, I'm kind of putting out the feelers, if that sounds like a good idea to you, if a quarterly facilitator Sangha sounds like something you'd be interested in, email me at brotherdave@davekeneally.com, which is on my website, and let me know. And in that email, also let me know how this course is going for you so far, what you're really enjoying about it, what you were hoping for more of. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next month, but I hope you come visit me on Sundays at Sangha Ocean Beach, and I get to see you tomorrow. Be well, friends.